Now Pedersen's a blast. Oh, that hit Provo. Diving save. Hart as he flashes across. Briere sets up Carl. Side of the net. Deflected. Score! Briere moving in. Stop. Cuts to the middle. Still has it. Shot! Score! Here's Hughes giving it across. Oh, what a save! Save by Maher! Short-handed mid! He scores! Up top, cruising is Provorov. He scores! Ivan Provorov!
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fired Up Podcast. I'm your host, Amedeo Grassia, along with my partner, Chris Maher. As always, we always live stream on the Painted Lines, TTP Sports, and Flyers Fan Mania 93. And if you can't tune into the live stream, it's always going to be up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts at. So without further ado, we have our special guest host of the Nasty Knuckles podcast and former Flyers equipment manager, Derek Settlemyre. Derek, how are you doing on this fine day?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. Thank you so much for having me. And I got to tell you, I love that intro, man. I got pumped up watching those goals. I was getting a little jacked here. Awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Recuperating after yesterday?
Yeah, we had a little talk about that. I'm feeling you too, man. I was pretty upset about that, man. I was expecting a W from the Sixers, and we just didn't get it. So
yeah, I can go on a whole rant about the Sixers. It could be on. It'll be an entire Fired Up podcast, Sixers talk. That's the rant I could go on with this series, but I'm not going to do that because that's going to take way too much time.
I hear you, man. I'm right with you. We can talk basketball the whole time, man. It's driving me nuts too.
Yeah,
Chris, I know you're a big hoops guy, so
yeah. I was telling you before, I watched maybe 3 full Sixers games, and it was game 5 and 7 of that series, and 2019 game 7 against Toronto. That was it. I'm not really into it that much.
Yeah, you witness a lot of the. It's like I
should have stopped watching. I'm just
0-3.
Terrible. Yeah. I know. I'm terrible off.
Yeah, I question your sanity because you watched those 3 Sixers games and then you became a Flyers fan at the 2012-13 lockout. Yeah. Right at the start of all the mediocrity. I have no idea how you are sane. I just don't understand it. I lose sleep because of it because I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's it got to the point where it was so bad where after they beat Montreal, and I told you this before, I literally cried when they beat the Canadiens. Like, and I know it sounds weird because it's like, oh well, it's only the fucking first round, you know what I mean? But like, I was so excited, like it just exploded.
Your first taste of success.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's playoffs. Even when you're a pigeon like I was doing the equipment, playoffs are the best time of the year, and it's so disappointing when you don't make it. But when you're in it, I mean, for the longest time, obviously we didn't get past the first round when I was there. They finally did last year, had a great showing, and I mean, it is so much fun to be involved in the playoffs. I mean, even your off days, there's just a buzz. And it's like so exciting. But God, even myself, boys, I was, I guess the last time I went past the first round was when we beat Pittsburgh in 2012. Yeah, 2012. And we had great feelings that year. Like we thought, we beat Pitt. We were on a roll. The boys are playing well and won that first game against the Devils. And Danny B scored in overtime. Kind of a C&I shot. And then we got beat 4 in a row. And they ended up going to the finals that year.
Jersey was a good team.
They had a good team. So, but, after that first round, anytime you beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs, so you're talking about Sidney Crosby and Letang and Fleury. Fleury had a
especially what G did that year, too.
Yes, exactly. And, we were super pumped. Maybe a little cocky. I remember I was talking to Braden Shin. We were laughing about we're not laughing, but just saying, God, man, remember that we go up, we beat Pittsburgh, we're up 1-0, and what's the name of the band? Who's the band everyone picks on? My mind just went blank.
Nickelback.
Nickelback.
Of course, you remember. Nickelback was in town, and they love hockey. They're actually really good dudes, man. So we went before, hung out with them, went up. We're on the stage for the show, And they brought the boys out, and they were shooting water guns out at all the fans. The place is going nuts. Let's go Flyers. This is at a Nickelback concert. So everything's like just great. And then next thing you know, we're 4 games after the first game, and it's like 90-night Jim Kite. You're like, fuck, what happened? Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to, experience that again because, it's been so long since I think Flyers fans have actually had, the anticipation of excitement, hope, faith in your team because last year we had it. We thought with the way the team was playing last year, we thought they had it. They lost in the second round. Okay. They got the game 7 of the second round. It's okay. But then everything just crumbled this year. It's just like they reeled you in like they have so many times this decade and they just threw you back out.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of positives going into this year. I know we talked about, I don't think, anytime you lose one guy, you're like, that's a big loss. But the Niskanen loss had more meaning because he brought more to the locker room as well as the ice, like a lot on the ice. Guy's a really good hockey player, obviously. Yeah. Him and Provy were just so good together. They played so well together. They just had a chemistry from the first day they played together. So that was huge. I think finding that chemistry for Provy. I think Provy's a good enough player. We could play with anyone, but I think, in my opinion, it's got to be the same person most of the time and let them build the chemistry together. I didn't really feel like that happened for whatever reason. But that loss was pretty big. I think Niski he helped so much more with some of the younger D that are promising players, as we all know. We saw it. I think it had a effect on guys more than people realize, to be honest with you. So you're right. It was, everyone came into this year. I mean, even after the first weekend, we're like, all right, here we go. Great start. You beat the Penguins, you beat the Penguins, start the year off the right way.
They started, they were like 7-3-1.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And we had Scott Lawton in a couple weeks ago, and he was, in his opinion, he said we had a great start, but we didn't feel like we were playing that great yet. But you'd rather have that start instead of a bad start playing bad, right? You a win's a win's a win at the end of the day. I know some are uglier than others, but you have to take those wins for the points. Right. You know, whether it's we blew a 3-goal lead, well, you still found a way to win. People don't like it. It's not pretty, but you win the game.
Especially in a shortened season.
Exactly. And it just nothing. Just when you think we turned a corner or the boys turned a corner, just something. It's just something that's happened. I mean, so many different things it seemed like too. COVID didn't help. We kind of spoke about that, Amedeo.
Yeah.
Like everyone had to deal with it though. So
yeah,
it was disappointing, and I'm sure any of the guys would tell you that it's disappointing when you don't make the playoffs on any year, but especially coming off a year like that.
Yeah. Then just what transpired during this entire, like you have Carter Hart not playing up to his capabilities. Definitely he showed some frustration, something that we're not used to. You saw a lot of other guys take steps back. Sanheim, Myers, Konechny didn't have a really good season. Really felt like the playoff bubble kind of circled into this year too, in the way he played. Just so many different line changes up and down, and it felt like only the veterans were the guys that, like you saw Giroux having to try to steal games for this team. Voracek doing all he can. JVR had his hot start to the year, even though he did fall off a little bit. Joel Farabee was probably the only young guy to probably take that next step. And then you saw all the other guys that came up during the late stages of the season. Wade Allison showed some nice things. And then you saw Landzinski before he got injured. He looked good in his stints in the lineup. Cam York, hopefully he can find his way too. But there's a lot of work that this team has to do. And I want to get your thoughts just on what does this, because there's so many, like you got the Dougie Hamilton ties, you got the Seth Jones ties, you got whatever they have to do to the forward core. If that's like, you're going to have to maybe worry about maybe giving up a big piece to try to bring back in a big piece to try to help your team out. Just what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think this team has to do?
Well, I think one of the main things is I think you're going to lose a main piece of the team. I think you're going to lose a forward, and you might have to lose a D to bring another D man in. Maybe not an old veteran, but a veteran that's mid-20s, like you just said, like Seth Jones is out there. He's a hell of a player. Dougie Hamilton, I don't know him. I've met him. I have a question, though. Again, I'm a pitch and equipment guy, but I was in the league for a long time. I want to know why a player his caliber, when I say his caliber, like he's a good player, boys. Let's not kid ourselves, but why has he been on 3 teams and going to a 4th? Why does the Hurricanes want him back? That he was in Boston. They trade him to Calgary. Calgary gets him. He's in Carolina. Yeah. He's a pretty good player.
And those are 2 teams that were kind of bigger market teams.
Yeah.
And it's original 6, and then it's a team in Canada.
Yeah, and it just kind of.
And it goes to Carolina.
I'm just wondering, like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him, but doesn't it kind of make you think, like,
yeah, I don't think Philly would work with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I also think you can't be too picky.
Yeah. Right.
Years ago, it seemed like, well, it was like this when Mr. Schneider was here. There was a lineup around the corner for free agents for the Flyers. I mean, I'm serious. Like, you knew any of the top guys, there was a shot they were coming to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Now the way it's just been a little, helter skelter, I guess. I don't really know what the word is, but I don't think as many people are lined up saying, "Hey, I want to go play there." Now, I could be wrong in saying that, but it seemed like that the last couple of years. I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe it's the struggles. I don't know, but they're definitely going to have to do something on the D. And like you said, I think you're going to see a big piece of a forward of maybe a package deal to try to bring someone else in. But I always say you got to be careful, man. Wait, like the devil you don't know, is it better than the devil you know? Like I don't know, and I don't know what piece you're gonna have to move. Obviously, we have that expansion draft coming up.
Yeah,
there's gonna be guys left unprotected.
Right, and that's the thing, because I kind of feel like since Fletcher's gotten here, a lot of the stuff that he's done has kind of been in preparation for Seattle, because I think there's times where he's wanted to bite and he hasn't because of Seattle, because he got fucked over the last time he did it with Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he lost guys he didn't want to. And that wasn't just Minnesota. I mean, there was a lot of teams that messed up in that expansion draft.
Yeah.
That's why 100%. It's one of the reasons why Vegas is so good.
Yeah. And they're still good. They've been good every year they've been in the league, which is really impressive. And you got to give their management credit to Kelly McCrimmon and the president. Well, why is my mind going blank? The president. He was the first GM. Now he's the president. Not Poyle.
George McPhee.
George McPhee. Sorry, I apologize. He hooked me up big time when I was in college at one of his bars in New York City. I should never forget that man's name. My dad was buddies with him. But they've done a hell of a job, like, adding to that team. It almost blows my mind away. Like, how do they have all these guys there with the cap? Like, they look at Pacioretty, like Stone, like all these guys, Pietrangelo. They're paying some serious money to these players.
Yeah.
They've kept. I mean, they're obviously. They could easily go into the finals here, but they've been good for 3 years. But you're right, Chris. Like, teams messed up. They lost some guys there. You got to.
I mean, and there's a lot. I mean, it wasn't just obviously Tuck was one, Marchessault was another, Fleury was a big one.
Yeah.
Nate Schmidt was one at the time. There was a lot.
And
Carlson.
And the Carlson's first year there was insane. But think about Fleury. Like, so Pittsburgh leaves him to go. And the guy they kept isn't even there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say that now. It's a hard job. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, there's so many guys that have been looked over, passed over, and then you're like, oh, what were they thinking? Well, fuck, it's easy to do that. We
went with their guy, right?
Right, yeah. Or armchair GMs is fun to do, but it's a tough job. So we'll see. Yeah. I definitely agree with you. There's going to be some changes. I don't know how many they can make, but it also has to work within the cap and what you can get for guys. Because it'll be interesting, and it should be coming up soon here too.
Because I know going into this expansion draft, it's gonna like, who is Seattle going to pick from the Flyers? Are the Flyers going to try to entice them to take a JVR? Are they going to entice them to take a Voracek? Are they going to entice them to take a Augustus Bears? Chuck Fletcher going to have to try to make a trade so that it ensures that Seattle takes one of these guys, or is Seattle just not budge on any of them and they go for one of the lower, maybe unprotected guys on the system? It's just, And then when you go into the regular draft itself, and in my honest opinion, I don't think the Flyers should keep their pick. I really think they're going to have to trade it in order to help this team out.
That's what I've been thinking too. I think once they kind of get to after that expansion draft, and they kind of have because I think their list is going to be like, these are who we're protecting. That's that. You take who you want from here, and that's it. Then after that, I think they're just going to be like, okay, heads on to everything else after that, and they're going to try to fill the holes that they have to fill.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to be interesting to see what the management here in Philly can do. Sorry. Interesting to see what they can do. So it's going to be fun to see. That's for sure. Stop, Elvis. Come on.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, it's all fine there. Just thinking about what this team, because I'm not, because the fan base right now, it's so divided, because you have your overly optimistic side of the fan base, the ones that I would say maybe are too attached to the players on this team and they really don't want to cough up something to try to get something. And then you got
talking about me, Amedeo. You talking about me?
Maybe. And then you got the overly negative, the overly pessimistic guys that maybe are talking about maybe things that are maybe a little bit unrealistic, but then it doesn't. Then once these people clash with each other, it's always one calling each other derogatory terms. They're calling each other idiot. They don't. It's just the Flyers fan base is so divided right now because the team has caused this.
And that's the thing. It's understandable why it's like that. But then again, a lot of this stuff is blown out of proportion. Yeah. Where like this one comment here says like 4 or 5 different players that they could get,
which
is just fucking not going to happen.
Well, how do you know that? Like, how does
right?
I get it. Like, I get where like I do love Philadelphia, and I love how passionate everyone is. The fans, you know how it is when things are going great. Like, this is the best place to play in the world. Like, it's so awesome to be in the playoffs and be around in that building, and it's electric. But a lot of times fans, and you don't want to ever crap on them, but like some people, they think they know what's going on when they don't. And it's like they may hear that from the media, but let me just tell you guys something. Media doesn't know what's going on in the locker room. They can try to tell you they do. They don't, man. Like, they really don't. Because, over the years, and I get along with everyone in Philadelphia. I always had zero problems with anyone. I would say hello, talk to the guys, enjoyed their company. Didn't really read a lot of what was said. Once in a while, I would, just if I'm on the plane or something. And I'd be thinking, like, that's so far from the truth. Like, but people are reading it, so it must be true, right? It's in the paper, it's online or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, I understand when Philly needs this team to win. Like, we need to win, boys. It's been how long now?
Too long.
And it's not, especially with Mr. Snyder. I mean, how close was he again? Like, 4 or 5 times we lost in the finals since the 74, like 80, 84.
Lost to like 5 different dynasties.
80,
yeah,
85,
like I
87.
mean, Detroit in '97,
Edmonton, Chicago.
Yeah,
the start of the Islanders.
I mean,
if the team wasn't so injured in 04, they probably would have won the cup.
I'm telling you, people have said to us, and it's it's if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle. But if Ray Emery would have been healthy, I'm telling you, I think we win the cup that year. And it's easy to say now. It's easy to say now. I get it. But so many guys felt like that, and not taking zero away from Bush and Lates, because they were amazing and they got us there. Like not even close. But there's so many little things that go in. But it's funny talking to Chief Craig Berube. He's like, you gotta be good, but you gotta be lucky, and you have to get breaks to win the cup, man. It's not just the best team's gonna win. You guys see that? Like, you gotta get lucky. You gotta have breaks, and hopefully we start getting those.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris had to drop, so Chris won't be here for a little bit. So I'm going to continue on without him. So just thank you, Chris, for joining us. Thanks, it's just, Chris. It's just when like I've been a fan. I born in '98, been a fan of this team for so long, and then now just covering this team for the podcast, YouTube channel, whatever, Flyers Nitty Gritty. It's like you start to see different things from an analyst side and then the fan side, because and then more and more, like I try to take that different approach to not trash the team, to not do all this, but I'm bringing the fan side out more, just because it's been so long since this team has had a long stint of success.
Right.
Because this team, I know history will tell you that this year they'll probably make the playoffs, because it's been miss, make. So if you're betting on them to make the playoffs, you're probably going to bet them to do that, because,
Right.
patterns. But
I think we said that on the show too. Well, we're going to make the playoffs next year, so get ready.
Yeah.
It's that other year.
Because the last time this team had consecutive years of making the play, it was between 06 to 2012, was it? When they had those couple of years after that lockout making the playoffs.
You're right. Yep. That's exactly right.
And then they had the early 2000s teams that were so good. Like, I'm too young to remember those teams, because I was probably like 2 or 3 at the time.
Thanks for reminding me how old I am.
the earliest thing I can remember was the Phantoms during that time, during that lockout. They won the Calder Cup. That was like one of my earliest memories. Like, I don't remember any Flyers. I don't remember the 03-04 Flyers team that could have won the Cup that year if they weren't so injured to hell.
That's true.
But I know my dad's in this chat right now. He definitely does. He'll probably comment it later. But
yeah,
it's like, it's with all Philadelphia teams too. The Eagles, they got their Super Bowl, but what's been mixed up in between? Mediocrity and just bad play. The Sixers, they went through the entire decade with the process.
Yeah.
And what has it got you so far? Not getting past the second round in so many years.
Yeah.
And with the Phillies, they're one of the worst franchises in sports, and they haven't made the playoffs since 2011. They signed Bryce Harper.
Isn't it? It's amazing.
They signed Bryce Harper, and nothing else has changed. It's ridiculous at this point. And it's like, I know. And then we got some other comments right here saying, like, why do people want to? It's not that the fact that, I think Jones is this be all end all player. It's something different, and it's something that can help change your team, because people look at Seth Jones, they look at his analytics, and that's the one thing I don't like with some people that analyze the game. They look too deep into the analytics instead of looking at the eye test or using a little mix of both. That's what I like to use, the mix of both. You have to use the eye test, then you can use the analytics. Yeah. Seth Jones played for a bad Columbus team.
Yeah.
And those are going to infuse the analytics. So it's one of those players, he might need to change the scenery.
Yeah.
Maybe trading him somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about that too. It's become so analytically driven. And you're right. Some things are good to look at, but also I don't want to say old school, but like people that watch hockey every day, like scouts, anyone that's studying hockey and going to the games and watching players, most of what they're learning or using for these players is their play. Watching them play, you can see if a kid can play the game, if they know the game by watching them. I understand the analytics part of it is huge now. I know with the Flyers, they've got a huge analytic crew over there. They've got like 4 people, 3 to 4 great guys, really work hard at it. But I understand what you're saying too. Like the eye test is huge for me. I can watch. I feel like I can. Again, I'm not a scout. I never played the game. I just was around it for my whole life, and I can watch a game and tell if a guy can play. I feel like I can. I'm not saying I can know what you should sign this guy for, what you should do with that, but you can tell if a guy can play. And Seth Jones can play hockey. Like, he's a good hockey player.
Yeah. And when Columbus was one of the top better teams in the league, Seth Jones was in conversation for the Norris Trophy. Like that ability in him is still there. You just it's one of those things. Maybe a change of scenery needs to be had. And I know there's a bunch of talks with Nolan Patrick on the Flyers, like with him getting that new agent, with the report from Anthony Sanfilippo talking about how he signed that next agent because he's eventually probably going to request out of Philadelphia. I wouldn't blame him, because just, it's the way it's been hard for him.
It has been. It's been a tough 4 years for Patty, and he's a great kid, and he's been through a lot of stuff that, I'm not a medical guy. I can't really get into that stuff, but I feel for him because I know how much he loves hockey and how much he wants to be the guy he's supposed to be. But it's, not to make excuses for him. He won't say it, but he's been hurt since he got here, and no one wants to hear excuses. He would never give an excuse, but it's just the truth. I mean, he's had a tough go. Even when he started his rookie year off, I don't know if you really look back at it, I remember thinking to myself, man, this guy's got sick hands. Like his hands are, but he's not the greatest skater. But then now remember he came off the surgeries for his abdomen area, whatever. I don't remember if it was his groin or his abs or whatever it was, but he'd had that surgery. Well, around the Christmas time, all of a sudden he just started flying and he's coming down. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot he had surgery. And you kind of could see that second half of the year, what he could do is getting to play a little bit more. And Patty's a skilled guy. Like to me, like what I've seen over the years is like, if you put a skilled guy like him, like once in a while, maybe he's on the fourth line, but like he should be on the fourth line. He's got to play minutes to give you something, and he's a good two-way player too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that, but like, it's tough for Patty to get anything going when he plays 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and again, it's just been a tough ride for him. So I'm hoping everything works out. I would love to see him stay because I'd love to see him kind of shut people up a little bit. But at the same time, whatever's best for him and the Flyers, you got to do what you got to do. And maybe he just needs a change too. I don't know that. He hasn't told me that, but you're right. He's had a tough go.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm more one of those people that's willing to give him another year to prove himself. But like, if you get an author that you can, and Patrick's one of those players that you can throw in, and he brings something back that can help your team for next year, I wouldn't hesitate to do it. Yeah. And it's at this point where this team shouldn't be, I would say, just so attached to certain, like it goes back to where some of the people are attached to certain specific players and they don't want to see those specific players go. You have to be willing to make those moves to make your team better.
100%. You have to sometimes. It's like, I was kidding a second when I said that to you. Like, I love this group because I've been around them and I love the core group. And I know people are like, well, it's not getting it done. I understand that thought. But you have to be in there to see everything to understand. I take up for people give me shit too, because I take up for them. But there's just certain things that go on and that, people don't know about. But you know what? They're fans and they shouldn't have to worry about that. They just want the team to win. And I get that. And I'm the same way. I'm a fan and I just want them to win, whatever it takes to do. If it's getting rid of a guy, we were devastated when Simmer got traded, Wayne Simmons got traded, because I love Ryan Hartman. He was a great guy, good dude. But like, I remember them saying, we're not going to trade him unless it's worth trading. We're not just going to trade him just to trade him. Felt like we traded him just to trade him because this guy didn't even come back. Ryan ended up getting traded to Dallas, which then they turned around and traded him somewhere else. Where's he? Minnie. He's in Minnie now.
And they got Pitlick out of that deal with Dallas too.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I just felt like, Wayne, we were rolling pretty good there at that time. We won that big game outdoor, came back, and I don't know how we did, but we did. It was amazing. It was awesome. First outdoor game we won. So it was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Right.
Yeah.
But we were rolling. And after that trade, it it could have gone downhill after that anyway, the way things are going. I think that was the year. What did we have? 8 goalies that year? 9 goalies?
Yeah. The breaking the NHL record for most goalies used in a season.
It was a shit show, man. These poor guys, they couldn't stay healthy. I had more helmets painted that year, pads and shit. It was crazy. But
yeah.
We'll see. You're right though. Like sometimes you just got to do something. You got to, even if a guy's been here, and I have a feeling that's going to be Voracek. And it's depending on what you get, I think people are going to miss him more than they realize, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I'm not one of those guys that just despises Voracek. I don't. Like, I don't want to see this guy gone because he's been a really good He's been one of the top guys on our team for so long. It's just that contract that is tied to his name, that money that he's making. People are going to have these high expectations to where it might be a little unrealistic for a guy like Voracek. And it's just, you don't like when you look on the ice and what he brings, that playmaking ability that he does. The Flyers never had a guy that's been a finisher, either for Giroux or for Voracek. They haven't had that guy. There are so many players on this team that you can probably describe as a playmaker. I think who would you say would be the last guy the Flyers had that was a finisher? Would you say it was Hartnell? Would you say it was Gagne? Would you say it was Leclerc?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good point by you. Like, if I really had to sit there and think about it, there's been guys that played on that first line and taking zero away from them. Like Braden Shen, he scored 20 every year. He never scored 40. So Braden could shoot the puck, he could score, but to have that guy, I would say Gagne was a sniper. Of course, near the end, he was up and down, and he was hurt.
Injured a lot.
Jeff Carter could really shoot the puck. He had close to 40 the one year. But yeah, man, I mean, think about that. Think about the numbers that, I think a lot of people never think about this. Think about the numbers that Claude has. And you can imagine if he ever had a
goal scorer.
Like I love Nicholas Backstrom in Washington. This guy's so good and so underrated. Like, don't get me wrong, Ovechkin's going to have so many goals no matter what, but he doesn't get nearly enough credit. This Backstrom passes the puck. Man, it's almost like Adam Oates and Brett Hull.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really is. I mean, Backy is like such a good passer, man. And G's like that too. Now G can score goals as well. But like, he just sees the ice so well. If he ever had a guy that actually like could bury it, like a real sniper, of course, what team doesn't want a real sniper? Like, it's not like every team has that guy. Patrick Laine, like, that guy snipes.
Yeah.
He was, like, I don't know what happens. I'm not trying to say that's what the Flyers need to do. I'm just saying there's a guy that's a legitimate goal scorer that may not be happy where he is. I don't know what's going on with that guy. It seems to be kind of a shit show in Columbus anyway. So who knows? But you're right. That's a great point by you. I don't know who. I mean, yeah, Hartnell had he had almost 40 goals the year he played with Yogs, but God, you're going all the way back to 2012.
Yeah. No one during this, like Wayne Simmons was basically your goal scorer. That was basically it. And he barely surpassed 30.
Right.
But and then Couture, when he started to break out, he had like around 30 goals. Giroux, when he had the 102-point season, he scored 34. But really, where is your guy that has the potential to break that 40-goal mark? Where is that guy at? You just don't have it. Maybe Farabee can develop into that because of the way he played this year. Maybe
he could score. You know who else? I don't know if Frosty's a sniper. Morgan Frost. I love that kid. There's another just bad luck kid gets hurt for the first or second game. He's got a lot of skill. I don't know if he's a sniper though or a playmaker, but I know he can score. But you're right. Like, who's that guy? Like Cole Caulfield?
Please don't bring that up.
I'm just saying.
Please, because I bring it up.
He has only played 15 games, so we don't know what's going to happen. But he can score, man. Like,
I know.
Man, I don't know.
And and I don't want to put any pressure on Cam York. I don't. I don't. I know York is going to be a great defenseman. Hopefully he's the future number one with Provorov. Like, I hope that's the case. Yep. But you had that position because you had a need for a guy that can come in, and the kid scored 70 plus goals.
Dude, he broke Patrick Kane's. He broke Patrick Kane's record.
He did.
Dude, if that doesn't scream to you, I don't like. He kind of reminds me of the Brinket and Chicago. Like, he's little. Doesn't matter anymore, man. Like, that's strong on the puck. He's like a little fire plug. Like, it's not like he gets knocked around. The guy's strong. Like, in the Brinket's the same way. I used to kid Chris Knobloch, who was assistant coach for the Flyers. He's now in Hartford. He was actually the head coach the night the Flyers lost 9-rip. He was the head coach because Quinn had COVID, I guess. It was COVID protocol. But anyway, I had no idea. I saw Knobber talking to DeBrincat in Chicago the one day. And I'm like, I was like, how do you know the cat there? And he goes, oh, he was on my junior team. I'm like, whoa, hang on. I said, here I thought you were this great coach. You had McDavid, DeBrincat, Strome on your team, and you didn't win. I was obviously kidding. It's not that easy. And he's like, yeah, I'm not that good of a coach, but he is a great coach. But it was just funny. I was busting his chops because I had no idea that all those kids played together. But this Caulfield, man, who can he shoot a puck?
Yeah, and it's what I'm seeing him provide for Montreal right now. In the like him just stepping in, and just he looks like he took the NHL game at ease. Even him going down into the AHL, it's like when you going back into that draft, there were the entire Flyers fan base was, we want Cole Caulfield, and then they had him at 11. They traded back to what was it, 14, 13. Phoenix moved up. Okay,
Still could have got him.
Yeah, they took Soderstrom, I think it was, because I feel like that was the guy the Flyers were eyeing at that point, which is it still bothers me to this date. But when you have Chuck Fletcher go up to the board, he says Flyers select from the United States development team, and then you pray to Cole Caulfield, then he says Cam York, and then all the ball dropped for every Flyers fan. Like I remember seeing a video, they were having a draft watch party at a bar, and they were all shouting for Cole Caulfield, and when they heard Chuck Fletcher say those words, and then they were all cheering, but then when they heard him say Cam York, it just went silent.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against Cam. He's a good kid. I think he's going to be a good player as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, but we'll see, right? Like we'll see in the next couple of years. It's like I said, we were talking before, it's easy to be, that's a tough job, GM of a team. And there's so many things. And as a GM, I've learned over the years, like they really depend on their scouting department because they see these people more than anyone else. And, maybe that's just the way he wanted to go with it. I'm not sure, but hopefully Cam works out in a, awesome, because he should be a really good player.
Captain of Team USA.
Yeah. Hopefully Caulfield has a good career, but doesn't beat the Flyers with a game-winning goal. And
if he scores 50 goals in his rookie season, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be really mad.
I'd be shocked if he scored 50, but then again, I hate to even say that, the way he shoots a puck, man. God.
Yeah.
Boy, can he bury it, man.
Yeah. It's because the Flyers just needed that goal scoring ability so badly. And just like when you have the opportunity to take it and you don't, it was just a gut wrenching.
Yeah. No, I understand. I was at our trainers meetings during that, and I was standing with a buddy of mine, Josh Penn. He's the head equipment manager of the national champion UMass team, collegiate team. And we were standing there, and I was like, I got a feeling we'll get Caulfield, because we need a scorer. And then he went that way, and I'm like, okay, this kid's good too, but it was a lot of people going, dude, what are you guys doing? He broke Patrick. I'm like, I'm the equipment guy, man, and I'm confident in what we do. So I'm like, I've got nothing bad to say about it. So hopefully it works out, but you are right, man. It's such a good point you bring up about having that. And, every team wants a guy that can snipe, it's just, there aren't a million of those guys available, unfortunately.
It's just because Drew that's the guy that he needed his entire career, and he just hasn't had it.
Yeah.
And I feel, and like we get more comments talking about people don't understand the player that Jake is. Voracek is the best passer on this team if he goes, a veteran presence and a great playmaker that the team will miss.
He is.
It's just, And before we get into off the Flyers talk and get into the playoffs, because that's really exciting, we have one more question here talking about, because also Jack Eichel, that whole situation with Buffalo, and what would you be willing to give up for Eichel? Man, because it's weird too, because I know there was like so many talks about they want like a boatload for him, and there was a rumor about they just want a first round pick, a high end player, than a good piece off your roster. So I'm not sure what is going to be true. You don't know what's going to be true, but if it goes to the first, obviously the first round pick, you got to give up.
Yeah.
And then in terms of a top prospect, who is your top prospect that you give up for a guy like Eichel? Like right now, York is your best prospect, but who's your best forward prospect if that's what they're looking for? But
yeah, if that's what they're looking for, I don't know. I've heard different things as well, and what a shit show in Buffalo. You think it's bad? Things are bad. I mean, God Almighty, they've had a different GM and coach for almost every year for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you kind of almost feel for. I was hoping Eichel would stick it out there and try to get it going, but at the same time, like think about it. If it's you, like Is that what you want to do? Do you want to sit there another however many, whatever it's going to take? And when it's hard for free agents to want to go there. He's a great player, but like it's hard to get a free agent to want to go there because it's been such a shit show. Until you turn it around and it's not a shit show, I feel like a better chance. But back to your point on what would you give up for him? I remember seeing some things that people just were throwing out there, but I think you're going to have to give one of your D in your lineup now.
Yeah,
one of the younger guys. I would think that's what you would have to do. First round pick, obviously. And you might have to throw, I don't know. I guess again, it's all going to depend on whatever team gives you the best offer. They could say, well, here's what we're looking for. But what if we say, hey, we're offering, just throwing it out there. I'm not saying this is what I would do, but like Myers, TK, and a first round pick. Maybe you do that.
Yeah. Maybe throwing a guy like Zamula too.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? But say I don't want those guys to go. I'm just saying, if you're just saying that. But what if the Rangers come back with, okay, we'll give you 2 first-round picks.
We'll give you a Kakko or Lafreniere or something like that.
So now you're kind of bidding. It turns into a bidding where it's never just cut and dry. It's not like, hey, Buffalo's going to call Chuck Fletcher and say, we're only dealing with you. So they want to get the best they can. So just because Eichel's out there and the Flyers are desperate, like, I don't want to say desperate. Let me take that back. They're not desperate, but something has to happen, right?
Yeah.
Something has to happen.
Something has to happen.
So, so they say, hey, this team's offering me this, or the Flyers going to say, it's a little steep, but okay, we got to try it. Well, then you do that. If it works out, great. But if it doesn't, now you're not, you're an asshole because you gave up too much, so it's such a tricky thing. And you're dealing with the other 31 teams in the league. Now there's 31 teams.
Because it just sounds like it would be like a whole Lindros situation again, if you're trading for that type of player.
It really does. And, I remember Jack's first year watching him. You could just see how smooth he is. He almost looks like he's not trying because he's a lot like Jeff Carter. He skates so well, and everything he does, he makes it look easy, but he can fly. He skates with ease. He shoots a puck really well. He does everything well. I mean, let's be honest. He would have been the first overall if it wasn't, for Connor.
Yeah.
And I think Eichel's proven that he's a legit star in the league. So you're right. Like, it's going to end up being probably more than people think.
And it's also, even going to McDavid, this is just a joke, but if Edmonton continues the way that they're doing, they don't know how to properly build around McDavid and Draisaitl, I can honestly expect McDavid wanted out of there.
I personally
believe he didn't even want to be drafted there. I remember his draft night. He looked so pissed when they won the lottery.
I don't know what they have got, the best building. You should see that place, man. It's second to none. Like the way they did that. And Edmonton's obviously a hockey town. It's packed every night, whether they win or lose. But just the debacle that's been the Oilers, as far as their number 1 picks, I mean, yeah, he was probably like, shit. Like, but he's played as hard as he can since the day he got there. He's not complaining. He doesn't point the fingers. God, him and Draisaitl. Can you imagine if he didn't have Draisaitl?
Oof.
I mean,
he would really want out of there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they've got, but I think unfortunately that's another market that's hard to get free agents into.
Because of how bad they've been for so long.
I just think it's, if you ever get past, if you just get a couple years to where, you somehow find a way to get some players in there to help them out. And nothing against those guys that are playing in Edmonton, man. They made the playoffs. Yeah, it was a letdown afterwards, but they're good hockey players. I mean, it's so hard to win too. People forget about that. Like it's hard to win in this league. It's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, but we want the Flyers to win. So, I mean,
I've been saying that since '98. That was my first words being bored. I want the Flyers to win.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
It's hard, but that's a great question by you, like, because I feel like it's going to be more than people think.
Mm-hmm. And then you also, like before we get into the playoff talk, this one comment here, they wouldn't want TK Myers or Sanheim because they're going to go all in for the tank and just want picks. But then you also got to handle too. The Flyers aren't going to have the cap space just to get Eichel in here. They're right at the cap space as it is, and you're going to have to give up some salary. Like this is also not guaranteeing if Voracek or JVR goes to Seattle or anything like that. So the Flyers are going to have to give up someone on the roster that's making a good chunk of money. Whether that is going to be a TK because he's a young player, he's under 25, he's at a really great contract for his age and for his track record in the regular season. So you're going to have to give up something on your roster that's making money in order to even bring in Eichel. So you can't just go the prospect route.
You're right. And another thing you have to take into consideration is these guys with bigger contracts, you got to have a team that wants them. That's willing to pay them.
And you can't it's how difficult it's going to be to get rid of both Voracek and JVR in a flat cap world. We're just praying that Seattle takes one of them, and that's not guaranteed.
I mean, it's hard because there's so many things that come into play where a lot of people don't realize how many little things, which we're talking about now. There's just so many things. First of all, you're right. Seattle, you got to hope. If you got to get rid of some of this this money, you got to hope that they're going to take them. Is Seattle going to go that route? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's not really up to the player either at this point because if you're left unprotected, it is what it is.
You're shit out of luck at that point. You're just praying something doesn't happen.
I mean, you're also. I haven't seen. Obviously, I don't know. I don't think teams have even put it out there yet, but it'll be interesting to see. Again, back to your point about Vegas, they did such a good job with putting that team together. They really did. And it'd be interesting. I'd love to see the list a few days before they go into this, just to kind of look at names and see what they're going to, with their management, with Ron Francis. He's a hockey guy. I mean, I think he's a really smart man.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of these players might not be, but I remember my first year was inaugural year of the Florida Panthers, and Bob Clark, I don't think it did work the same way as it does now, but he still put a team together. Like, we missed the playoffs by 1 point. It was incredible. We literally missed the playoffs by 1 point that year. And players maybe back then were like, oh, you're going to a new team, like when Tampa started, all that. You're going to a new team, you're probably not going to win. You're not going to win much because you're getting guys that nobody wanted. Now it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not so much like, oh, I don't want to go to this team. Guys might be licking their chops to go to that team. Jake Voracek, say they take him, like, dude, he's going to play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to play a lot. And I think I've talked to you this before. Jake's one of those guys, just being around him. I know him. The more he plays, the more he produces and the better he feels during the game. But who knows if they're even going to take him? And that's something you're taking a chance on if you're the Flyers. So what happens if they don't, Amedeo? Now what do you do? If a team didn't take him for nothing, who's going to trade for him? Who, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would take Jake Voracek on my team because I know him and I know what he brings and I know how much he cares. But teams may not want to pay someone that money.
Yeah. And that's where I also think Chuck Fletcher is going to try to entice Seattle with something else to say, take Voracek, take JV, or just get these guys off our team and we'll give you this in return.
Yeah, because there was some of that going on with the Vegas thing.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember hearing, because what's his name? 55 for Vegas. He got traded this year. He didn't play.
Nate Schmidt.
So they supposedly had an agreement to where they wouldn't touch him. And they took him. And I guess it was kind of a shit show. They were going back and forth, but it's like, hey, you left him unprotected. I'm taking him.
and that also goes because I think he was the old Washington GM, so
exactly
kind of maybe
he knew it, and he's like, no, we're taking him. And how can you not blame him? I remember way back when we the Flyers threw the offer sheet to Webby to Weber, and Mr. Poyle, David Poyle, who's a great man, USA hockey guy. Him and Paul Holmgren were friends, and they still are friends. But it was about a year. He wouldn't talk to Homer, and I remember he's like, David still hasn't talked to me. I'm like, well, you know what? I understand he's bad, but you were doing your job. Like, it's fair. It's a fair. It's not like you did something like a snake. You did something that other people are going to do, and we didn't think they were going to be able to cover that. And who knows what would have happened if it did happen? But Webby sure got paid.
Oof. Yeah, imagine if the Flyers did get him and Nashville didn't offer. Oof.
I know. I mean, like that he's a beast.
Yeah.
Oof.
Just
strong man.
And what he's doing for Montreal now, what like the veteran presence, like in that ties perfectly into the Stanley Cup playoff topic we were going to get into. Like these two series, they've probably been more than perfect in what you can ask for. Two series that are tied at 2 games apiece. I think the only thing that bothers me with these two series is that the NHL really isn't putting them on the best platform, because I know the Olympics are coming up soon. They're doing all their trials and everything, but putting them on USA, no one's going to turn on a channel USA for a hockey game.
Well, if you don't know it's there,
yeah,
you're not going
to find it.
We're going to watch it because we're like, wait, where's the game? I always when there's a bunch of games during I have the package, so I go to any game, but I always look to see what's on NBC, SN, like with those guys. I always just go to my ESPN app to see where the game's, so the other day I'm like, where's this game? And I went on there and it said USA, and I'm like, oh God. I can understand when there's 7 games in the first round of the playoffs and you have to put them on. That's cool, because then they're like, hey, go to USA for this game. They're kind of, at least they can tell you. But when you've got a semifinal, final 4 teams in it,
it shouldn't be on USA.
It shouldn't be on USA. Now let's be honest. But then again, NBC's losing the hockey anyway, so they're probably like, yeah, whatever.
That's probably the benefit of them having ESPN and TNT for next year, because you have so many variety of channels now to where you don't have to put it on this random bumblefuck channel.
Exactly. That's true.
That's true. And then looking at these two series, like going to Tampa Bay and the Islanders, like every time I watch a game that is played at Nassau, I get jealous. I get so jealous, because the Islanders, yes, they've been through so much misery because of their terrible front office, like Garth Snow, even going way even before that, the idiot that was on NBC Sports, Milnick.
Milbury.
Mike Milbury. Just that entire fiasco. And now they got Lamoriello. They brought in Barry Trotz. They lost Tavares, but their team has flourished because of it. The atmosphere that's at Nassau, I get so jealous, because when Hextall came in, that's what the Flyers promised us, and we're not even close to that. It feels like we're getting further away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's closer.
I hope so.
Than we think. But that building, that team, I mean, Lou Lamoriello is obviously one of the best GMs to ever be in the game. He's got his weird things that he does that some people don't like, and some people don't want to go there. His shaving every day. Those things. Like, hey, listen, people used to say to me, well, Hexy's, I'm like, no, he's your boss. If he just likes this something to be that way, then you just do it. Like Lou Lamoriello wants you to shave every day, then shave every day. I mean, sorry, he's your boss. But bringing in Barry Trotz, the fact that the Capitals wouldn't pay him the money to keep him as coach, he turned Ovi into a 2-way player. He made Ovi responsible at the other end. No one had done that. Now Ovi sees what it's like to win and what it takes and how it feels. It's all he wants now. I remember this year, I was kind of like, they lost the game. It was when Samsonov misplayed the puck behind the net and they end up losing. And Ovi's just giving it to him. And I felt like I love Ovechkin, but I'm like, I love his intensity. I love the way he celebrates. Even though he scored 1 million goals, he acts like it's the first one he's ever scored. And I love that passion. You know what I mean? And he got so mad at Samsonov for making that mistake. And in my head, I'm like, you know what, man? You know how many guys felt like that about you? Because you wouldn't come back and play defense. You wouldn't skate back. You just weren't worried about scoring goals all those years. You didn't give a shit about winning. I mean, I should say he didn't give a shit about winning, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He wasn't willing to play the way Barry Trotz made him play. Barry Trotz goes in the Island. They're in the conference finals 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And I mean, you look at that team. Yes, they have some skill. They've got really good players. They're getting great goaltending, but it has something to do with Barry Trotz. Man.
Yeah.
This guy's amazing.
Yeah, the Islanders, they're not a team that has that top 10. Like Barzal, yes, he's a superstar in this league, but if you look at around the other team, like they don't have these superstars. They don't have McDavids. They don't have Ovechkins. They don't have Crosbys, but they play a team game. It's what Barry Trotz provides to the team and how they just mold. They like their first pairing of Pelech and Pulak. They're one of the best pairings in the league.
Yeah, and but if you saw their names, would you think that?
No.
They're not household names that jump out at you, but look at the way they play. He gets guys dialed in. He's one of the nicest men I've ever was able to meet. Just a great guy, but man, he's a motivator. He's fair, but he gets them to play. And that's why they're 2-2, man. They could go to the final. I mean, I know Tampa's a tough team. It's going to be a tough out, but God, man, you have to give that man credit. And Lou, like he brought in two old school devils, Palmieri and Zajac. And Zajak's obviously more of a defensive forward, but Palmieri's one of those guys. He gets hot. Yeah. And he went so many games without scoring a goal for them. Then he finally got one. But you start the playoffs. If the guy gets hot, man. I mean, it was just a great pickup. And, if they had Anders Lee, that guy makes a big difference. That guy scores big goals, and he's hurt. I know he's skating again. I'm buddies with a few of those guys. I know he's skating again. I'm not saying he's anywhere near ready to play with that injury he had. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's out on the ice is definitely something that it's a plus probably because if you know hockey players, if they do find a way to win this, that guy's dressing in the finals.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't care. Like if his knee, if the day is supposed to be – he's going to play, whether it's just power play or something. That guy's going to be dressed, and he's a huge part of that team. And the fact that I really thought they were in trouble at the end of the year there. I mean, you watch as much hockey as me. They struggled down the stretch when they lost him, and they reeled it in. And you got to give the players credit, but Barry Trotz, man, this guy's amazing.
Exactly. Then, like you go to a team like Tampa Bay, they win the cup last year. I know people are complaining because they brought Kucherov back after being injured the entire year. They're $14 million over the cap. Dougie Hamilton complained about that in the post game press conference. I mean, it's a loop. It's a loophole.
Though. That's the rule. I mean,
it's a loophole. It's like you can't do anything about it.
What are you gonna do? I mean, the guy didn't play all year, and he steps in. He's a leading scorer in the play. He didn't play a game. Like he steps right in. He had 2 or 3 points the first night he played.
Yep.
I mean, he's a special player. Let's not forget that. Obviously, you
don't. But missing all that time and
stepping right in and putting points up like it's
nothing.
Play. It's like that play he made the other night. Like I don't know if it was a game winning. He just made a play along the wall. It's just like not many guys that can do it. The patience, to circle back. He knew someone was coming late because he took a look and it was like a late pass. It was just he's a hell of a player and you got to give Cooper credit too, man. It's not that easy to coach teams when you have that much firepower and you've got to keep everyone happy. I know it seems like, well, look at their team, but there's still some work to be done there. And I think he's a great coach as well. But
and just the way that fourth game ended with McDonough trying to come into the slot, he had to do a wrap around.
That? Oh my God! The fact
if that went in,
that goes in. That might have been goal of the century, man. Just because of the timing and how you don't see Mac make moves like that. That's not usually in his game. But.
And it's funny too because I forget which, I don't know if it was Pulick or Pelech that was in the crease trying to stop it, but it looked like he closed his hand on the puck too, which if that was called, it would have been a penalty shot. But
could you imagine? But I thought that game was over. I was like, it's kind of counting down. And then all of a sudden the puck comes over to him. I'm like, I looked at it's time.
There's 5 seconds left.
He's going to get a shot off anyway. And he spin around. I wanted to text him so bad, but they lost. I was going to text him and be like, bro, where did that come from, man? He made that move. And I'm like, I stood up because I'm like, he's going to score. And he comes out of nowhere and knocks it down. I'm like, play of the year. Either way,
Like literally my jaw dropped watching that.
I couldn't believe it. I thought they were out of time, and then somehow he gets a puck. I was just like, that way, me and Riley got on the phone right away. I was like, could you imagine if that had gone in? Like, if you're the Islanders and that goes in, I don't care what you say, that kills your will, man. You're just like, what just happened here? But
yeah, and then you go to the other series because you got Game 5 tonight between Islanders and Tampa Bay, and that's where it's coming back to Tampa Bay. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully, it'll be impactful as it was on Game 4. But then now you go to Montreal and Vegas.
Yeah,
going the Montreal side, they were doubted ever since they stepped foot into the playoffs.
I doubted them.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm not gonna lie.
I did too. I thought Toronto was going to steamroll them. Okay, it looked like they were going to. They were up 3-1, but then they come back. Yeah, I know Tavares. I know they lost Tavares in Game 1, so you still went up 3-1 without Tavares, so you should be able to finish the job. But
you would think that, and it's funny. I remember we were talking, me and Riley Cote, we were talking about this as well with a couple guys. And when they came to Game 7, they're like, no, I'm like, dude, if you tell me I've got one game and I've got Carey Price in net, and you've got a team that's just won 2 games with some of these kids that have stepped in and they're so confident and just having fun, like we've been talking about them. I'm taking Carey Price in a game. So, I mean, I know what Toronto has, and I have to say, I was pulling for Toronto because of Wayne Simmons and Jumbo, Big Thorny. I was hoping that they would climb the ladder and get there, even if it's to this point, conference finals, what a series against Tampa it would be, right?
Yeah, I was pulling for Toronto just because I thought this was probably their best year to do it. And then also one of our other co-host of the podcast, he's a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I'm just like and he even said too, he thought this was the year, and he said he was confident that this team could have won the cup, and it blew up in everyone's face. But now Montreal, like I know last podcast I said that I hate the term built for the playoffs. I hate because Montreal, because everything going on with COVID this year, they lucked into it last year because of the bubble, this year because the North Division was so terrible. But Montreal is just so fun to watch. They are.
I mean, they really are fun to watch, and the thing that I like about them too is that they play with it. They're not the biggest team. Obviously, they got Shea Weber back there, but
they play with an edge.
They play with an edge. They're a tough team to play against. They're fast. They're a fast team, in my opinion. And like Suzuki and Caulfield, like these kids. Not Suzuki. This isn't his first go. Like I know he's been around a little bit, but like they're just having so much fun, and it's so fun to watch a team. It reminds me of like when we got TK, like just the smiling, that you're just having so much fun, and it's easy to have fun when you're winning. But like you said about him a little bit earlier, like Caulfield's like it's not like, oh my God, I'm playing in NHL playoffs. He's just like, get me the puck. I want to play, and their team's fun to watch. Like you said, they're so much fun to watch. I talked to Dale Weiss a little bit. He does a thing with Montreal. He has a show, and I think it's daily. They do things, but I'm like, holy cowboys! Like this is fun. And PJ Stock, same thing. Like he's a Montreal kid, and he's like, it's amazing what they're doing, and they're just confident and they're playing. And it was so nice to see Luke Richardson get that first win as, obviously just filling in for a head coach, but that is a great, great man. And I'm sure you saw the thing kissing to his daughter up in heaven there. But anyway, that team's fun to watch. And who would have if you would have told any of us they would even be here, you'd have said no. They wouldn't beat. There's not a chance they're going to beat Toronto. I mean, if you're betting, you're saying no way you're going against Toronto. And then they sweep Winnipeg. I did not expect that. I really didn't.
That was the one thing going into that's like, for some every year Winnipeg goes to the play. I'm just not sold on them. There's I know they have Hellebuck, but it's just like, what else do they have?
Yeah, that what? That's a good point. I'm not saying I didn't think that they would lose that series, but I didn't think they would sweep that team.
Yeah.
That team's a tough team to play against in Winnipeg. Granted, there's no fans. It's a lot different when that place is packed. That's a fun, like you would love to see a game there. Regular season, it's one of the best places to see a game. I'm sure playoffs too with the whiteout.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a fun place to really stay because it's so cold. I always bust Riley's chops about Winnipeg, but people always are, kind of make fun of it. But it's a great hockey town, man. And those people are so passionate and so loud in that building. But, I didn't see him getting swept. That's for sure.
It's the funny thing when you say like a great hockey town, like when we know bros. Like every time when I talk, when I talk to him on like a person, like he said, who the fuck wants to play for Winnipeg?
Well, probably not a lot of guys, but if you do talk to the guys that play there, they're like, it's a great place to play hockey. Like, but it's not a great play. Kevin Hayes, we kind of spoke about that when he did our Nasty Knuckles show. He's like, it's unbelievable to play in the building, but I was coming from New York City. I'm used to walking downstairs, going for a little walk.
And then you go into Winnipeg.
And I'm walking in April and May down the street with my overcoat on, a scarf, and I don't know if you happen to see that episode, but he kind of said, he's like, I'm standing in line at Starbucks, and the guy in front of me is like, just saying to the guy he's getting a coffee from, I just see the Jets game last night. The guy's like, yeah, he goes, I'm not real sure about this Hayes character. I'm not sure. Hayes is like standing right behind him. He's like, okay, well, that's good. And then he says, I'm sitting there having my coffee, and some guy goes, hey, aren't you Kevin Hayes? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm the guy you're just burying. But the guy he said was super nice. He's like, oh, can I join you? And Hayes is like, yeah. So he says he sits down. The guy's like, keeps talking. And he's like, finally, he's like, oh, I got to meet my mom. She's in town. Just to get out of the convo. But you're right. I mean, I don't think people are like, oh my God, I want to go to Winnipeg just because of the weather. Unfortunately, but like Dustin Byfuglien, like playing there, I talk to Buff all the time, and he was a guy that he loved playing there just because even Steve Mason, he had a tough go there, but like, he's like, dude, it's a good hockey place. Like, people are into it. It's packed. It's an awesome building to play in. And it is. Even going on the road, you're like, fuck, I hope it's not like minus 50. But the game is like so like it's gonna be so much fun because it's so loud, and it's always nice to win there too, because that place is going bananas, and you win, it's kind of like But anyway.
Yeah, then you have the Vegas Golden Knights, who have been in the playoffs ever since they came into the league. They just built
favorite building.
Yeah. They perfectly built team. Mark Stone, Pacioretty, Pietrangelo, Marchessault, Fleury, Lehner, just everything. And I'm just like, how has this team not won a cup yet? Like with the way this team is built.
They might this year.
And they just forced game. They tied the series yesterday in overtime. I know the refereeing in yesterday's game was terrible, but it was bad. But they tied the series. It's going to be going back to Vegas in that building at a tied series. It's these semifinals are great.
They are. It's been like, you can't ask for any more. Like, the games are competitive. There's no blowout. You know what I mean? And they're feisty. And that's the thing. Like me and Riley were talking about the other day. It's like, you just like seeing guys not every play tapping each other, helping. They want to win, and they're willing to do. Obviously, you don't want to see people get hurt, but you like the chippiness of the game. You like the shit talking in the game, and you want to win, man. It's just like guys, you say you'll do anything to win. Like, you'll do anything to win. And that's, I feel like they've gotten back to that. The games kind of getting a little chippier. It usually does once you get into playoffs, because you're looking at 7-game series, right? Like, so, but it's been so much fun to watch, and I'm excited for tonight's game and then tomorrow night's game, and I hope they all go 7. It's more hockey to watch.
Yeah,
just so entertaining, man.
Yeah, and I think we are. I think we could talk for hours and hours, but I know we eventually. It's already been an hour and 10 minutes into this show, so we're eventually going to have to end it off.
Not to mention the 45 minutes I was just running my mouth. Poor Chris had to go. I feel bad.
Yeah, it's literally like we could talk for hours. Yeah. And it just sucks we're on it's because right now it's 5:00. I just got a thunderstorm watch for my Alexa.
Oh, okay.
So
and we're almost guy's been hanging on here. He's ready to jump in that pool. He's gonna be mad when I tell him I got a 5:00 appointment here. We're outside waiting.
Yeah, but just one last question before we officially end it off. Who do you think's making the finals? Who do you think's gonna be the matchup?
I think it's going to be Vegas, and I think Tampa's going to find a way to pull it out. That one's I really don't know. Tampa Islanders. I hate to go against the Islanders. It's so tough, but I do think Vegas is going to find a way. I think they're just a little bit. I think they're better, but who knows? But that's my pick. I think it's going to be Tampa and them. I have a lot of buddies on Tampa, so I hope they don't hear me. But I kind of want Tampa. I kind of want the Islanders because I just love that Barry Trotz and the way he makes that team play and the way they play for him, and it's just so exciting, man.
Yeah, I know. Like saying like a fan of a team that's in the same division as the Islanders, but I just want to see Nassau in the finals. I want to see that atmosphere. Like I know some people complain about it, saying it sounds like a soccer game, but like, dude,
who cares? It's awesome.
I know.
If you ever are there and you're like, wow, it makes the experience so much better. Imagine
when they get the new stadium next year. Imagine how, I think people are like comparing it. It's just gonna be like a Nassau 2.0. Right. That's what people are comparing it to. So it's gonna be flat out amazing. And
I'll tell you this: they lost a lot when they signed that deal with Brooklyn. Oof, that was terrible. It was awful. I know the players hated it. I know their players hated it 100%. You know, they're all having to take cars in for games. It's like 82 road games, really. They didn't skate there in the mornings. You know, they're all in Long Island and coming in. It's just a pain in the ass. They still, I mean, you got to give them credit. They still showed up and they played. It was a tough team to beat no matter what. But playing in Nassau, playing in Brooklyn, it's
night and day.
Not even close.
Yeah, I went to a game in Brooklyn. Like I think it was during 16-17 or something like that. I think it was like that one game that got snowed out and it got rescheduled to the end of the year. We went to me and my father went to that game.
Didn't Manning score a ridiculous goal that game?
I think so.
And Ray Emery backed up that game. He was up with us for 2 weeks and he left as soon as the playoffs started. But that's the game. I remember. Yeah, because of the snow, we had to.
We went there. It was the final game of the season. They clinched the night before against Pittsburgh. And that atmosphere was so bad. It is not a hockey arena. I'm sitting like in the corner over here, and the ice is all the way over here.
I was gonna say, even it's center ice, the
scoreboard's not even lined.
No, it's because it was made for basketball. It was made the way they did it.
And then you had the perfect centerpiece, that stupid SUV that was in the corner.
It looked like a European hockey game was going to be played there. European tournament, just like the World Championships.
Yeah, it was just bad. Like I've been to that arena, sadly, and we went to Staples Center a couple of years ago. That was 20 times better than Barclays.
Yeah, I love
20 times.
I like Staples too. That's always a fun. That was always one of my favorite places. But you go to Vegas. I mean, it's like Vegas. It's just different.
I want to so badly.
I'll have to send you this. I'll send you this little video I have from the last time I was in Vegas. It was 2019, right before I left the team in 2020. But we were there. Actually, it was 2020 because it was like January 2nd. I had to change someone's steel on their skates. So I set the steel down on the bench and the bass is so heavy in there. It's so loud. The steel's like going, like moving. So I videoed it. I'll send it to you. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's like a show. As an equipment guy, you have to see what's going on like in warmups, even though it's warmups, like, you can kind of not be as focused, but you still have to watch and see if the guy breaks a stick, if they're going to need something. Mm-hmm. And you can't, because you got girls. They're smart. Vegas puts all these dancing girls around the corner where we're warming up, where the visiting team's warming up, but they don't have them at their end. Like these half-dressed chicks dancing. And you're just like, how are the boys supposed to concentrate? It's so smart. But you know what? We had good luck in there. My three years in there, we won, I think, 2 of the 3, or maybe 3 of the 4. Maybe
honestly, I think the Flyers won every game they've been to Vegas.
I thought we lost 1, but I could be wrong. We may have maybe.
Oh wait, yeah, you did. You did when it was 1920 where they had that. You had the terrible Western Conference road trip where you lost San Jose. That terrible. Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah. I was gonna say, but I remember going in there. The year after they lost in the finals, we went in there and we shit kicked them. Like we beat them in game 1. I think Newby played. Oh, Ellsman played that game. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's just a great play. I mean, it's a show, dude. And it doesn't stop. it's like going, and the music's so loud. It's like they're pumping oxygen in there too. It's almost like being in a casino. You lose track of time, right?
Yep.
They're pumping the oxygen. There's no clocks. You're just like,
you're just there. That's
you're
it.
there, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah, because we've been to Vegas twice. The first time there was no hockey to be played at that point, but we went to Vegas so many weeks ago, and it was during the first round. It was during the first round, but the time we got there, they were playing games 3 and 4 in Minnesota. And the day we left Vegas, that day was game 5. And I was so mad, but I knew the ticket prices were going to be so expensive. I didn't want to force people to buy it.
I'll tell you what, if you have the time and you can, you should get out there next year. Just go to it. Even regular seasons. It's so much fun. I mean, you're like, like you're on the bench and it's game going on and you just like want to go, like you just want to party, man. It's just like so much fun. And even the guys are like, during the game, they're like, nasty look over your right shoulder about 7 rows up. And I'm like, already saw it. That's just guys being guys, but it's just, and then there's something on the screen and then they got the dancer. I mean, it's just no matter which way you go, it's like, holy shit, look at it. Oh, there's this guy, I remember we were coming out to, what's Wayne Newton? He looks like his face doesn't move anymore. He looks like he's like 100 and they're like the weekend at Bernie's. They're just moving him around, but he's actually a bigger dude than I thought. So what happened last time we were there was we were going out to the ice, and I think when I was still there, was Wayne with us? No, he wasn't. But it's whoever yells out, it's time to go, 2 minutes, or let's go Moose, whoever. So we go to walk out, and here comes Wayne Newton. And I'm standing to the right, and I turn around, and he's like walking right into our line. And the guy actually put his hand up and stopped him. And his people that was with Wayne were like, whoa, like, don't touch him. We're like, do you want this guy to get run over by these guys in skates? And I just remember, and his face couldn't move. He just had a smile and they showed him the other night on TV. And I said, that's exactly the look on his face. I don't think he can move his face. He's had so much surgery and everything. But I'm not making fun of him at all. Like, God bless him. And he's at the games. He's cheering. It was just funny seeing him try to walk through the players, and the guys aren't stopping. They're not looking to see who it is, right? Like, they're intense and they're walking out. This guy almost gets trampled. And the guys kind of grab him. It was pretty funny. But if you get a chance to go to a game there, you have to. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I know we're probably going to try it at one point and probably fail doing it, but you never know what will happen. But man, like I said, I know we could talk for hours upon hours, but sure. Derek, I thank you for joining. Sadly, Chris couldn't finish the entire thing, but he had to leave so early.
We were talking about basketball, everybody. We're both, me and Amedeo are like, just distraught about the Sixers right now, but we won't get into that.
But that, like I said, that'll take another hour
I know.
itself. So
it might take longer than that, actually. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I
definitely.
Really I love your guys' stuff. Watch you all the time. So I appreciate you including me.
Yeah, definitely. And you're welcome to join anytime. It's just, and also for people that don't know, you can watch the Nasty Knuckles podcast. They do it. They showed all the snippets on Instagram. You can go watch them, talk to Flyers players, talk to them, watch the different people around the league that used to have connections to Philadelphia. It's just a great podcast, and you get some different insight. It's just hockey people talking. That's basically it. Think of it like maybe Spittin' Chicklets, but more Flyers centered, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. We don't know what we're doing half the time. We're just talking and like we're doing, just like to talk about hockey and good stories and stuff. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I really do appreciate you having me on.
No problem, man. And welcome anytime. And for people, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Fired Up Podcast. You could look at this if you came into this late, you can go watch it or listen to it on Apple, Spotify, ever you listen to your podcast at. Don't forget to follow Nasty Knuckles. Definitely go do that. Don't forget to follow my separate YouTube page, TTP Sports. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Amedeo Grassia 98 for Chris. Twitter, it's _ Chris Maher. For his YouTube, it's Flyers Fan Mania 93. And yeah, just thank you for joining this. And also, don't forget to subscribe here at the Painted Lines. Do everything possible, social media and everything will be down in the description below. So thank you for joining this episode of the Florida Podcast. I'm your host, Amedeo Grassia. Chris Maher was here. He is no longer. And that was Derek Settlemyre. So thank you for joining, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.